Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. I'm gonna be honest, there really wasn't a lot that actually happened in this episode. I found myself actually quite bored. I've never, I've never really been a fan of Ciara and Ben. I felt like that was probably the most tension that happened in this episode. You know, there was one point where Ciara wanted to call the cops, wanted to call Sean, because, you know, since Marlena's having so much problems with John, and, you know, she's like, yo, listen, we can't, like, this isn't the plan. You know, I'm out here in the wilderness, practically, I'm pregnant, like, this is, like, we gotta come up with something. And of course, you know, possessed Marlena's all like, well, you can't trust John because John has friends in the forest, and we just don't know, you know, who we can trust. And, you know, Ciara's like, oh, we could trust my brother. So she's about to call. And Marlena snatches the phone out her hand. And they just both look at her like, the hell was that about? But, you know, she tries, you know, she does her best to explain it away. Ben just kind of stands there. He just sits there and just sympathizes with her. There's one point where Marlena's like, you know, I gotta go and freshen up or whatever. And Ben looks at Ciara like, yo, what's going on? What's that look? You look mad tense. And she's just like, something's not right. I mean, hell, even when Marlena's there, she was like, something's not right. Like, the way you're acting, pretty much, actually, it was more the way that John was acting. Like, I just can't believe the person I practically grew up with is acting like this, you know? But, you know, Ben tries to explain it away, or mostly just like, yo, listen, we don't know what happens in closed doors, you know? People can be completely different, you know, when those doors are closed and they're by themselves. So he's giving, you know, Marlena the benefit of the doubt. She, on the other hand, is like, yeah, something ain't right. Something is not right. Hell, there's one point where Marlena's not there hugging Ben, and Ciara walks in the room like, how long is this hugging to last? This is, it's starting to make me feel some sort of way. Like, what are you doing? Now, before the episode ends, you know, Marlena says she got to use the restroom or powder up or freshen up or whatever. And then they get a bang on the door. Now, at this point, it's probably most likely Marlena, you know, possessed Marlena being somebody else. I don't think that she would use John Black again. I think she'll probably use somebody else, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Philip and Chloe, you know, this whole Philip thinking that Chloe and Brady did something just because they were talking about Nicole at the time with the rave. So this whole time, first of all, she walks in the room, and the room is dark. It's just a TV on. This dude's literally just sitting there in the dark. And she's like, yeah, we gotta talk. You've been lying to me. And at first it looks like Phil was about to confess about the tree and everything like that. And Chloe's like, oh yeah, about you being fired. And she was actually upset about that. Like, you know, we're a couple, we're supposed to trust each other, let each other know about it, most intimate secrets and stuff like that. And Philip was all like, really? You're telling me all about your intimate secrets? Now, to be honest, I understood where she was coming from, but at the same time, I was like, it's not that black and white, you know? I mean, she was upset because she felt like he wasn't letting her in. But I'm like, you know, people do have pride, you know? And it's not easy to sit there and tell anyone that you got fired from your job. Ever. Unless it's a job you really hate. Other than that, you just, it's not something you can just sit there and just bring up in conversation. So I felt like maybe she should have probably cut him a little more slack than just being like, well, I'm angry at you because you didn't sit there and let me in. We're supposed to sit there and trust each other. Are you kidding me? So, to be honest, I was like, whatever. Honestly, tell you the truth at this point, it's just more double talk. more double talk, doesn't really go anywhere. Now, you know, Victor and Maggie are downstairs and they're talking about John Black and Marlena. They're talking about Brady and the sobriety and stuff like that. And of course, you know, Victor's like, yeah, probably. I thought he was going to sit there and say it has something to do with Kristen. But he was like, yeah, it has something to do with Chloe Lane. Talking about how the men in his life, I mean, the men of the family so far don't pick good women. Now, ever since they're talking about Brady and Chloe and stuff like that. And of course, you know, here's the thing. When Chloe leaves, because Chloe's like, yo, I'm going to go get some takeout or whatever. The minute she walks out that door, he starts calling Chloe, like, Philip starts calling her the most nastiest names possible. And I'm like, wow, bro. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the anger and the hurt and the resentment to an extent. Let's put it this way. Me personally, I've never you ever just see two couples fighting and they say the most hideous things to each other possible? And whenever I look at a situation like that, it's like, it's hard to believe that at one point in time, they loved each other. Like, they loved each other, and they're at a point where they're saying the most hurtful things possible. The most mean, nastiest things possible. To somebody that they once said that they loved. I've always found that so odd to me. I mean, I've never been one to sit there and start arguing and yelling and cursing, and no, it's just, I don't know. I guess people sit there and say I could be a little more passive-aggressive, but I just never, even if I was really angry at someone, I don't think, like, in a relationship, I don't think I would ever say some of the things that I've heard. And so having Philip sit there and call her, you know, whore and this, that, and the third, I'm like, damn, bro. I mean, when you find out that, you know, she didn't cheat on you, you're going to feel like ass. But still, really? Yeah, that's my father was sitting there calling you. My father was right. I'm like, okay, sure. Chloe does wind up running into Brady. Brady says some sort of cheesy line from Casablanca. And Chloe just feels so uncomfortable being, you know, in the same area as him. You know, that she's like, alright, well, I got plans. I'm about to go back to Philip's place and, you know, have some dinner or whatever. So she goes back into his room. She talks to Maggie and she's like, where's Philip at? Now, I guess it's weird. Philip was probably Brady was probably talking to Parker. Because he was talking about, like, winning a soccer game and stuff like that. And, you know, Brady was talking about, oh, that's good for you, champ, and this, that, and the third. I'm like, I knew that he wasn't probably talking to Rachel. Because some of the things that he was saying felt more like he would sit there and talk to, to a boy and not a girl. Anyway, he's on the phone. And next thing he knows, he get a crowbar straight to the head. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that crowbar, the first thing that I thought of, and it's kind of a comic book reference, I don't know if you're gonna get it, but Joker and what was his name? The Joker and the second Robin, known as the Red Hood. That's what came across my head. Anyway, it's probably Philip, because at this point, it's funny too, because he was overhearing Philip. I mean, he was overhearing Victor and Maggie talk, and Victor was sitting there talking about jealousy and how it could just lead you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. And hearing that, you would sit there and think that he would get clarity and be like, you know what, maybe I should sit there and confront her. Not in an angry way or anything like that, but like, you know, maybe I should just confront her and find out what's going on. At the risk of getting into an argument, at least I could sit there and know what's going on. I don't have to have this weight and everything like that, you know, on me. Nah, that's not exactly what Philip does. Philip decides to take a crowbar and beep, beep, just right to Brady's head. Now I did see the previews, and a lot of people seem like they're blaming Brady for something that happened to Philip. I have no idea what it is, but I'm kind of curious to sit there and find out. Also Eric coming back to finish this whole possession storyline. And there's a lot of fans. And here's the thing: there's a channel. I think it's called Days of Our Lives Spoilers. I'm gonna find it. Oh, her name is. I don't even want. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna give this woman Holly Jones. Holly Jones I think that's her name. She does these quote unquote spoilers for Days, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't really like her channel or his channel, depending, because sometimes it's like her and sometimes it's his. It's like they do a lot of misleading titles. They start saying things like, "Oh, well, they're canceling." Well, Days went off of NBC because of the ratings and stuff like that. And then they'll sit there and double back and be like, "Oh, well, find out what's going to happen next year." And it's like, but you just said it was canceled. I mean, you literally just said that Days isn't on NBC anymore because of the ratings and people are not liking this possession storyline. Which, those all are very true. Except for the fact that, it's still on NBC. Like, Days is still on NBC. So if you see her channel, I don't think that people should go on her channel. I'm not saying she doesn't have some credible sources, but there's a lot more misses than hits. And I feel like she puts out a lot of clickbait titles just to get views. Same thing with him. And I think they both have channels on like GH and some other soap operas. But point is, I wouldn't trust them, and I'll just leave it at that. Oh, and the last scene, not the last scene, but we talk about Lonnie and Abe. So they had a talk, had this long discussion, and in the end, they patched things up, which is great. And I'm actually really glad, because I'm not gonna lie, halfway through it, some of the stuff that Lonnie was saying was just like, not really making a lot of sense. I get that she was hurt, she was angry, she was confused. Her whole world turned upside down. I get it. But some of the stuff she was just saying, like, oh, well, all those bonds that we forged or whatever weren't real or something like that. I'm like, did she just basically sit there and say that the bonds that she forged with her dad and her brother and stuff like that, and her mother, like, particularly her dad and her brother, all that stuff, all those loves and laughs and hugs and worries and stuff like that they shared wasn't real? Like, after a while, I was like, yo, y'all gotta find a way to patch this thing up between those two, because she is literally starting to sit there and say things that are just like, ugh, what are we doing? Anyway, they patched things up. Great, that's cool. And John Black and Paulina snipped it talking after Brady left to go get him some food, some like actually food that tastes like food and not whatever stuff that they were serving at the hospital. But yeah, they just pretty much talk about Marlena being possessed and how, Paulina's upset that Marlena, or possessed Marlena, kind of blew her life apart. But I'm like, Marlena, all those secrets and everything like that, and granted it wasn't just her, but all those secrets that came out, it's not like the stuff wasn't real. You just not to say, oh, she blew my life apart, she tore up my marriage, and this, that, and the third, and Abe is never going to forgive me. I was like, and that's because of the lies that you, along with 2 other people, told. So, exactly who blew up your life? Was it really her, or was it you? I feel like it was you. But yeah, they just talk about her. That's pretty much about it for the most part. Well, about Marlena being careful and just glad that she made it out alive and stuff like that, because, you know, she could have been in the hospital or, you know, even worse. Even though, to be fair, being back, here's the thing, I don't know if Marlena was into killing people back in the day when she was possessed, but I was like, she really wasn't doing anything now. I mean, yeah, granted, she tried to get Susan Banks to kill Marlena, but, like, I mean, she was trying to get Susan Banks to kill John. And I'm like, you could have just did that with both of them. You know, and like, I don't know, I guess for me, it's like, it's just hard to sit there and take her or just possession storyline even that credible, seeing how you haven't actually killed off anyone yet. Like, you haven't killed off anyone. You change some people into cats and animals, you lock some people up, but, like, what have you really done that makes people afraid? I mean, hell, even the people that came back, I felt like did try to do a little more damage than Marlena, possessed Marlena, or the devil at this point. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that's about it for the most part. If I missed anything, please write it down in the comment section below. I want to thank you for watching, be safe, and I will see you in the next video.